Social media is currently in utter chaos, and fans are shocked after rumors surfaced overnight that Mom Scott was closing Love and Hip Hop for a brand new secret project that no one saw coming. Insiders said that the reality TV queen herself was working on a new show behind the scenes, and if the rumors are accurate, it will be much more explosive than anything we've ever seen on Love and Hip Hop. But things get even more bizarre, according to sources, who also claim that the move wasn't without significant drama. Apparently, tensions arose between Mona and some of the show's biggest stars. Stars like Yandy Smith and Rashida Kirk Frostman DCs were involved in an all-out screening match on set. Rumor has it that after a heated argument with Mona, after which Rashida and Mona fought over creative control, Kirk stormed off set, and Lucy allegedly called the entire production a trap. Meanwhile, Yandandi is reportedly devastated, saying, "She was taken by surprise by the decision and left crying." Fans are now demanding answers, and cast members are leaving cryptic messages online, which is stoking even more conjecture about what this secret is. Project? And did Mona really kill Love and Hip Hop just to replace it with something else? Stay tuned because this drama is just getting started. When the first rumors began to circulate that Mona Scott was ending Love and Hip Hop, fans dismissed them as just another unfounded rumor that would go away in a few hours. However, by the time the weekend arrived, something felt different. The cast members were unusually quiet behind the scenes. The crew stopped posting their on-set selfies, and then the shocking news broke that Mona Scott was seen departing. Rashida was among the first to notice something was wrong. She had been contacting producers for weeks to find out when filming would resume, but all she received were evasive answers and postponed schedules. Insiders in a private studio in Atlanta with a small group of producers, none of whom were involved with Love and Hip Hop, began talking, and what they said sent shockwaves through the entire fan base. Mona was allegedly replacing Love and Hip Hop with a brand new show, which, according to sources, was already halfway through production. The first crack came when Frost, who was already becoming suspicious, decided to question one of the assistant producers for concrete answers. The producer allegedly told Kirk off the record that Mona had been spotted looking for new talent and locations that had nothing to do with Love and Hip Hop. Kirk then relayed the information to Rashida, and the two started putting the pieces together. Missed meetings, unshown scripts, wardrobe fittings, and other signs were all signs that something significant was going on. And it wasn't good. Around the same time, Menzies and Yandandi were also feeling the shift. They had flown in from New York expecting to begin filming, but were informed that the studio was undergoing renovations, which didn't make sense to them, especially since they had filmed there weeks earlier without any problems. Furious, Yandi called a longtime producer she was close to, but she got no response, no texts, no callbacks, as if the entire production had disappeared overnight. Yandandi started to panic because she had built her brand around hip hop and love, and losing that platform suddenly could be disastrous for her reputation. At an impromptu meeting Mom Scott held in Atlanta, tensions between her family and business finally boiled over. Only a few cast members were invited, which raised eyebrows right away. Despite the short notice, Kirk, Rashida Menich, and Yandandi all managed to show up, and the atmosphere was icy from the moment Mona arrived with her new production team, all dressed in black, and she allegedly started talking about the future of television and how audiences wanted something less manufactured, something more real, and Rashida interrupted her. She reportedly got up and asked, "So what are we, fake now?" The room went silent, but Kirk wouldn't have it. He accused Mona of using them for years and threw them away like old footage. Andy was clearly upset, and Menzies leaned back in his chair, with his arms crossed in silence, furious. And then came the part where no one, the cast, didn't buy it. They knew that less drama still meant heavy conflict, but it wouldn't include them. Yandandi broke down in tears at the table, claiming that Mona had confirmed that Love and Hip Hop was on permanent hiatus. She said that she sacrificed too much and opened up too much of her personal life only to have it thrown away without even acknowledging her. The new project, called Real Roots, would focus on a new generation of Black entrepreneurs and influencers. A heads up. Mona remained silent while Yandi spoke, but her expression remained unchanged. What followed turned the private meeting into a full-on brawl. Kirk got up, slammed his fist down on the table, and accused Mona of stabbing them in the eye back, saying, You made your empire off our pain, and now that we aren't useful, you're just done with us. Mona didn't answer, but one of her new producers apparently intervened and ordered Kirk to watch his tone at that point. Mentz got up and stepped in front of the producers. The two got into a heated argument, and security had to step in. Rashida pulled Kirk away, and Yandandi grabbed Menzi's arm to prevent a physical altercation, but it was obvious that the damage had already been done. Wasn't just a change in the cast or a business decision, it was personal betrayal. After the meeting ended in chaos, everyone left, but the drama continued when mysterious messages started to appear on social media. Yandandi posted a black screen on Instagram with the caption, "Royalty has an expiration date." Rashida tweeted, "Funny how success makes some folks forget who helped build it." Fans were incredulous and incensed, flooding Mona Scott's page with comments asking for clarification. Did Love and Hip Hop really get canceled? What was this new show? And why were the original cast members left out in the cold? They asked. Meanwhile, rumors were spreading like wildfire. Some said that Mendes was preparing a candid interview to reveal everything that happened behind closed doors, while others said that Rashida and Yandandi were planning their own reality series in retaliation. Kirk allegedly began leaking behind-the-scenes footage from previous seasons, hinting at what he called the real story that never aired. Fans couldn't get enough of it, and every clip, comment, and post was examined for hints. But as the internet exploded even as the backlash increased, Mona remained silent, didn't reply to the cast, didn't issue a statement, and didn't even post on accounts. Instead, she proceeded with her new project in a quiet and confident manner, as if none of the commotion had occurred. One thing was becoming very clear. This wasn't just the end of the show. It was the collapse of a reality TV dynasty, and at the center of it all stood Mama Scott, the woman who built an empire out of raw emotion and real-life chaos, and was now accused of tearing it all down without hesitation. Mattered, but the noise didn't go away. In fact, it was getting louder, and industry insiders started leaking more information. That Mona had pitched the new show months ago and received funding from a major streaming platform, which explained the secrecy she had to keep under wraps until the deal was finalized. Now that everything was set in stone, she was ready to launch, and she didn't care who got hurt in the process. Rumor had it that the new cast was already filming in Atlanta and Houston, and that several well-known actors were involved. This only made matters worse for the original cast, as they had already been blindsided. They were replaced. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more intense, a new twist appeared. Someone close to the production leaked a voice note that was purportedly recorded during a heated argument between Mona and one of the network executives. In the clip, a woman who is thought to be Mona is heard saying, "I don't owe them anything. I made them stars. They should be thanking me." Fans used hashtags like, "Everyone was curious about what the cast would do next" when Nar Justice 4 and Nar Bring Back and Anandi began trending. This is precisely where the next chapter of this story starts. The leaked voice note shocked the entertainment. Industry and fans couldn't believe what they heard. Mona Scott, the woman who is credited with starting so many careers, spoke with what sounded like pure disregard for the very people who helped build her empire. These people had aired their personal struggles, family drama, and deepest traumas for the sake of realism and ratings, and now she was allegedly brushing them off as though they were disposable. And suddenly the public's allegiance started to change as Mona went on with her new show. The original Love and Hip Hop cast was suddenly perceived as victims of betrayal, not just as forgotten celebrities. Kirk Frost wasted no time in reaching out to some of his fellow cast members who had also been cut off. Word quickly spread that Kirk and Rashida were secretly planning a response, not just social media posts this time, but a full-on exposé. The couple had kept a vault of behind-the-scenes footage from years of filming unedited clips that Rashida allegedly told one of her friends, "If Mona wants war, she's going to get it. We got receipts she doesn't want the world to see," which caused things to take a darker turn. Meanwhile, Menzi and Yandandi weren't sitting around doing nothing. Yandandi was still hurt and reeling from how easily they had been thrown out. She had always supported the franchise, even during scandals, and even when fans turned against her because of things she had said in confessionals or edited scenes. The more restrained man in DC was the first to propose going public, saying, "They think we need that platform. We built our names already. Now it's time to use it for our truth." Now her trust was broken. The pair then started contacting media outlets covertly. Nothing official yet, just private discussions with podcasters and bloggers, to share their version of events in a way that couldn't be altered, removed, or blocked. As the original cast started to organize, fans noticed something else. Some of the newer members of the Love and Hip Hop cast were remaining suspiciously quiet, and some even unfollowed Mona on social media. The idea was simple. If Mona was going to move on without them, they would make sure the world knew exactly what happened before she did the betrayal, the manipulation, and the fake promises of loyalty and inclusion. They wanted people to know the emotional toll it took, how they had built their lives around filming schedules, relied on that income, and sacrificed their privacy only to be ghosted. An anonymous source posted, "We were promised renewal contracts, then ghosted. Now we see our replacements on set. Nah, this isn't right." But it was a live stream from Rashida that really poured gasoline on the fire. She went live late at night without makeup, no makeup. Rumors quickly began to spread, with some insiders claiming that even those cast members hadn't been informed about the cancellation until they saw the news online. Apparently, only a select few from the final season were offered spots on the new show, and everyone else had been left out to dry. "Some folks smile in your face and then delete your whole career like it was just a storyline," she said with tears in her eyes. "We gave everything to that show. Everything. Our marriages, our kids, our heartbreaks. And for what? Kirk could be heard off camera trying to calm her down, but she wasn't stopping, and you guys are wondering if it's true? Yeah, it's true. They killed love and heartbreaks." She didn't name Mona directly, but thousands of fans watched as she talked about her anguish and frustration. Hip-hop, and they didn't even have the grace to tell us first. Fans were furious, shocked, and heartbroken. Many had grown up watching these people and following their journeys for over 10 years. Now they were learning that the show was ending through live streams and rumors, and worse, they were watching their favorite cast members have an emotional breakdown in real time. Some viewers even began searching through old interviews and reunion clips for evidence that this fallout had been building for years. All of the signs were moments when the cast members alluded to exhaustion, creative differences, and feeling exploited it, but hadn't yet put the pieces together. Then, in a surprising turn of events, Wendy shared a mysterious video on her Instagram stories with a blurred-out contract and the caption, "They thought we didn't have options." Fans instantly started to speculate about whether she was joining a rival network and launching a reality show, or collaborating with Rashida and Kirk. Within hours, blogs began to pick up the story. While the cast remained evasive, the story's headlines, such as Yandandi plotting a revenge project and Kirk and Rashida set to expose Mona, were unmistakable. The story had reached the mainstream, and Mona could no longer ignore it. However, instead of directly responding, she allegedly took a more calculated step and made a quiet phone call to one of Love and Hip Hop's original producers, the same producer who had previously endorsed her to the network. According to someone familiar with the situation, Mona was panicking behind the scenes, as the backlash had grown larger than anticipated. With the new show's sponsors asking questions, streaming platforms were becoming anxious, and worst of all, someone leaked early footage from the Real Roots pilot, leaving fans unimpressed and lukewarm at best. Without the iconic characters from a Love and Hip Hop and the raw drama, the new show lacked punch. It looked polished but empty. As a result, Mona found herself in a tight spot, with the very cast threatening the future of her next big project. To make matters worse, some of them had never before seen footage and serious dirt from 10 years ago. Receipts that could give Mona a completely different image. A producer with knowledge of the matter allegedly told her, "You need to make peace with them or this whole thing could collapse." Back on the cast side, another unofficial meeting was happening, this time without Mona. Men BC's and Rashida Yandandi met in a private lounge in Atlanta to discuss their next course of action. They discussed whether to fully expose Mona or take the high road. Kirk wanted to go scorched earth because he felt they owed it to the fans. "We don't need to burn it down," she said, adding that she still had friendships with some people in production. "We need to build something better, something they can't take from us." Menks nodded in agreement, saying that it's time we own our stories and stop editing and being puppets. The room was silent for a moment before something changed for the better. The group felt empowered, not defeated, not discarded, but motivated. for the first time since the news broke. They didn't need Mona's approval to be relevant. They just needed each other. They decided to keep quiet and keep working behind the scenes, knowing that when the time was right, they would make their move. However, even as they plotted, the situation outside that room was getting more intense by the minute. Fans were demanding answers, networks were making calls, and bloggers were publishing story after story, each one more explosive than the last. Was watching, the fallout was still going strong, and just when everyone thought things might calm down, another bombshell was dropped, and this one came directly from the new production. The bombshell was an anonymous message sent to gossip, blogs, including some that had close ties to reality TV insiders. The message included a screenshot of a group chat between members of the new cast of Real Roots, in which one of the new cast members expressed frustration over the show's direction, writing, "This isn't what I signed up for. It's boring. They want us to fake fights, but it's not landing. It feels like we're imitations of the previous crew." Another person responded, "I miss the real love and hip-hop energy. Doesn't feel real." Within minutes, the screenshot went viral and fans started tearing the new show apart before it had even officially aired. The leaked footage, the new cast's lackluster reactions, and the growing backlash against Mom Scott combined to create a storm that was out of control. Just as things were getting out of hand, another former member of the Love and Hip Hop cast, this time Scrappy, entered the chat. "They forgot who made the show hot," Scrappy said, pacing his backyard. "And now they're replacing us with folks who don't even have real beef. Come on, man, that's disrespect." Mama D added, shouting in the background, "I'm the queen of the South, and they went trying to erase me. I don't think so." Scrappy was broke, but he was ready to talk in a candid Instagram live session with Rashida Kirk and even Mama D. At the same time that things behind the scenes became more chaotic, it was revealed that one of the producers from the original Love and Hip Hop Atlanta was considering breaking their NDA to expose what they called a decade of manipulation and financial abuse in an anonymous post shared through a media outlet they claimed cast. By the time the LE ended, it had garnered over 70,000 viewers, and fans flooded the comments with support, calling for a boycott of the new show and demanding that the original cast be given their own platform. The post stated they cared about ratings, and when someone stopped pulling numbers, they got pushed out, which added fuel to the fire. Kirk and Rashida reportedly contacted the producer and started talking about using the information in a documentary-style project. The idea was to tell the full story from the inside, uncensored and raw, and from the perspective of the very people who made Love and Hip Hop a cultural phenomenon, namely Yandy and Men C. Members were frequently scolded about their pay contracts being altered without warning, and personal stories were edited in ways that damaged reputations. We're on board as well. They started talking to legal teams to make sure they could proceed without breaking any contracts. Everyone knew it would be risky, but the potential reward of reclaiming their story was worth it. Mona star Bring Back the Originals. Her team was frantically trying to repair the damage. They tried using flashy marketing, cast interviews, and teaser trailers to promote the new show, but it wasn't working. One trailer on YouTube received more dislikes than likes, and the comments were harsh, with people writing things like, "Bring back Perk and Rashida. We want the actual stars, not these randoms, and this isn't it." A recorded voice memo from a Real Roots team meeting in which a production employee was heard stating, "Perhaps we should have just stuck with the original crew," made Mona's situation even worse. Although the voice was unidentified, admirers thought it was a high-ranking official, and the message swiftly became viral on social media, causing blogs to jump. Now, it was more than just cast drama. It was a full-blown production crisis, and the original cast knew it. As this was going on, Kirk, Rashida Yandandi, and Men DCs met with a group of independent filmmakers to discuss creating their own platform, which would include not only a documentary, but also a series in which they would control the narrative. No scripts, no fictitious fights, just real stories. The filmmakers loved the idea because they thought that fans were ready for something fresh and genuine. So the group also reached out to other former cast members, including Carly Red, Mimi Foss, and Jocelyn Hernandez. Word spread quickly, with some hesitant and others eager, but everyone agreed that they had been used, discarded, and deserved better. The buzz surrounding this possible reunion show started to spread, and fans were giddy with anticipation for every social media comment. Plans for a digital platform that would feature the original Love and Hip Hop cast sharing their truths, creating fresh content, and finally owning their image began to take shape. Every tweet and blog post appeared to advance the cause, but when Yandandi went live once more, this time to demonstrate rather than to speak, she pulled out a hard drive marked Season 6 raw footage, held it up to the camera, and declared, "They thought they owned our stories." She didn't go into detail, but the message was clear, something significant. And when we dump this, you'll finally see what they never wanted you to know. Was coming, the internet went crazy, and fans conjectured about what was on the hard drive: unseen arguments, private conversations, evidence of stage scenes or mistreatment. The mystery only made the drama worse, and within hours, everyone was talking about it. Even Cardi B, who first appeared on Love and Hip Hop New York, tweeted a mysterious message that said, "They've been doing folks dirty." I'm glad people are speaking up now, because that one tweet sent the story into overdrive. Officially mainstream, Mona Scott knew she needed to move quickly. According to sources, she tried to set up a meeting with Kirk and Handy in private, offering them an executive producer position on the new show as a peace offering. Kirk, however, was uninterested, telling one confident person, "Too little, too late, we aren't your pawns anymore." And that was that nothing would stop the original cast from pursuing their own agenda and now producing their independent. While Mona's real roots were struggling to find their footing, the originals were creating something that could actually change the game. And behind the scenes, Mona wasn't finished. The series started quietly, filming pilot footage in Atlanta, hosting interviews, and capturing real moments between the cast members. The energy was raw, unscripted, and emotional, and fans were hungry for it. Sneak peeks leaked online, and the response was overwhelming. She had lawyers, connections, and power. Word got out that she was thinking of taking legal action to stop the new show, citing intellectual property rights and non-disclosure agreements. However, the cast was unconcerned because they had receipts, lawyers, and most importantly, their supporters. As the pressure mounted, a final surprise was about to happen. A betrayal from within her own camp by someone close to her who she trusted was going to completely change the course of events. Would shock the entire industry and reveal the one secret that could ruin everything Mona worked to protect. It began with a straightforward photo post with no caption, showing a contract heavily redacted with Mona Scott's name and signature visible at the bottom. The person who uploaded it had never discussed love and hip-hop in public before, and they were Kevin, a former production assistant who became a coordinator and had access to meeting minutes and internal correspondence that most people never saw for years. After years of loyalty, Kevin decided it was time to speak up. Within minutes of sharing the picture, he wrote a lengthy statement explaining how Mama had manipulated not only the cast but also employees. He wrote, "I saw people get exploited, lied to, and thrown away like trash," adding that she had built this brand and received nothing in return, using their suffering for financial gain and leaving them with nothing when the ratings dropped. He also included screenshots of emails where the most explosive part of Kevin's revelation came near the end of his statement. He posted a voice memo, an actual recording from a closed-door meeting between Mona and her top producers, in which Mona could be heard saying, "They're not stars, they're disposable. Once they stop trending, we'll find new ones." Producers were also told to incite drama by giving false information to certain cast members just before scenes were filmed, and cast members were promised bonuses that never materialized. With the network issuing a vague statement citing unforeseen production challenges, sponsors completely pulled out blogs, and mainstream media outlets began framing the entire love and hip-hop empire as a cautionary tale of reality gone too far. The tone was cold and detached, and it was the final nail in the coffin for her already collapsing image. Fans were horrified, cast members were incensed, and Mona went completely silent. The backlash was swift and real. Rashida, Kirk, Yandandi, Menzies Scrappy, and even Mama D gathered in Atlanta to announce their next move. They rented out a small studio and held a live press conference streamed across multiple platforms. Yandandi stood at the center holding a microphone as the rest stood behind her. "We're not here to drag anyone," she said. "We're here to take back our story." Her celebrated status as a pioneer of urban television was now being torn apart in real time. And even though she attempted to do damage control in private, the original cast continued to move forward. It would be called Truth Uncensored and would focus on real stories from real people, starting with their own. The announcement was greeted with a resounding amount of support from celebrities, influencers, and the public. It revealed a hidden clause in the cast contracts that allowed the network to use their likeness indefinitely, even after they were fired. Many people were unaware that they had consented to this, and it caused outrage. Lawyers intervened, class action lawsuits were discussed, and the network rushed to clean up the mess, but it was too late for the original cast. A quiet revolution had begun, and it all stemmed from the fallout between Mona Scott and the very people who made her empire possible. Despite all the progress, it was unclear how far Mona was willing to go to protect what was left of her brand. Reports surfaced that she was attempting to shop a tell-all book deal in an attempt to spin her version of the story insiders claimed she was. They weren't just exposing the truth, they were setting a new standard, and people were watching, as I. Filming for We Made the Culture came to an end. The cast gathered for one last scene together. They weren't acting, and there were no producers telling them what to say. It was just real people sitting in a circle talking about what they had been through. Having already been in talks with the ghostwriter, she had planned to portray herself as a misunderstood visionary who was simply ahead of her time, but fans weren't buying it. The receipts were out and the damage was done. "They tried to bury us, but they didn't know we were seeds," said Andy, looking around. When the camera stopped rolling, no one hurried to leave. Instead, they stayed, hugged, cried, and laughed. It was the kind of moment that couldn't be scripted, and it served as a reminder of why they had fought so hard to get here. They had been made fun of for being Leninist, but now they were free, and their story finally... The room fell silent, and then one by one, they started sharing their hopes for the future, not just for themselves, but for everyone who had ever been silenced by a system based on lies. The premiere date was set, and fans marked their calendars, that the business kept a careful eye on but kept out of the spotlight. Mona Scott sat quietly.